Stop. Ooh, here.
Challenging. Okay, it's working.
Yeah.
I'm still seeing your screen now.
I think it's under something like yeah. All right. Yes. Okay.
Is your screen sharing gonna work?
Yeah. Yes. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to Ikeda Wisdom Academy here in DC. We're an intimate group, which is great. And I just wanted to, first of all, I know today has been a very busy, not only today, but the past 2 weeks. It's been a busy weekend full of activities. So I just really want to appreciate all your support. Thank you, thank you. And so today we're going to study from Opening of the Eyes, chapters 12 and 13. And I'm going to share the screen, the presentation. Oh, sorry, I don't have the... Yeah, how am I gonna do this? Yes. I don't think I even put it there, the computer. Shh.
You can just use your
Or you guys can well, I need to.
You need that?
Yes,
Do
because
you
here are
wanna
the
send it
notes.
to us?
Yeah. Oh, Victoria, do you have any? But Ayana is using
You mean like the
the
PowerPoint?
PowerPoint. Yeah, yeah. What did they? So so today we're going to study chapters 12 and 13. So let's first begin with the quote from chapter 13 on page 123, and it says, "Those who lead victorious lives, striving with a standalone spirit and steadfastly upholding the correct teaching, are free of the slightest doubt or regret. Their state of mind is like a clear, cloudless blue sky." Wouldn't we all like to know how to live that way, where our struggles, doubts, and environment will not determine how we live? So, in the opening of the eyes, we find the manual for bringing forth the life condition of a lion king. Sorry. Yeah, the life condition of a lion king, just as we are. Its essence can be seen as forging a fighting spirit. But in it, we hear Nietzsche asking each of us, if you're not going to fight now, then when will you fight? So, in the first half of the opening of the eyes, Nietzsche clarifies that the Lotus Sutra is a teaching that can lead all people to the latter day to enlightenment. But the question remains, why does the votary of the Lotus Sutra encounter persecution? And why is it that when persecution occurs, the heavenly deities don't protect the votary? So in the second half, the Nichiren answers that these doubts by explaining what a votary is through documentary and theoretical reason. But the only way to dispel the doubts was to show actual proof, to reveal his own state of life. By doing so, he clarified what a votary was, a genuine practitioner of Nammyo Horenge Kyo, who fearlessly engages in shakubuku for the happiness of oneself and others, for the peace and reformation of society. So starting on chapter 12, why the votary of the Lotus Sutra encounters great persecutions. So let's start with the Gosho passage on page 113. He says, someone may raise this question. It would surely appear that the three types of enemies are present today, but there is no votary of the Lotus Sutra. Or actually, Victoria, do you mind reading it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please. From the computers. Okay.
So beginning again on 113, someone may raise this question. It would surely appear that the three types of enemies are present today, but there is no votary of the Lotus Sutra. If one were to say that you, Nichiren, are the votary of the Lotus Sutra, then the following serious discrepancies would become apparent. The Lotus Sutra states, quote, the young sons of heavenly beings will wait on him and serve him. Swords and staves will not touch him, and poison will have no power to harm him, end quote. It also reads, quote, if people speak ill of and revile him, their mouths will be closed and stopped up, end quote. And it states, quote, they who have heard the law will enjoy peace and security in their present existence and good circumstances in future existences, end quote. It also states, quote, if there are those who trouble and disrupt the preachers of the law, their heads will split into 7 pieces, like the branches of the Arjaka tree, end quote. Furthermore, it reads, quote, in this present existence, they, the practitioners of the Lotus Sutra, will gain the reward of good fortune, end quote. And it adds, if anyone who sees a person who accepts and upholds this sutra and tries to expose the faults or evils of that person, whether what he speaks is true or not, he will in his present existence be afflicted with white leprosy. How do you explain these discrepancies? Answer, these doubts of yours are most opportune. I will take the occasion to clear up the points that puzzle you.
Thank you. So the true peace and security lie in struggling to overcome great hardships. So in the previously read Gosho passage, 6 Lotus Sutra passages are introduced to contradict Nichiren's early statements that he is practicing the Lotus Sutra correctly. These passages can be divided into 2 groups. One, those who spread the sutra in the latter day will definitely be protected by the heavenly deities and enjoy peace and security in their present existence and good circumstances in future existences. And 2, those who attack its practitioners will suffer immediate retribution without fail. So in response, Nichiren reaffirms that a votary, anyone who stands up for a fundamental equality and greatest good, will invariably encounter great persecution. And he lists examples of votaries from the past, such as Shakyamuni himself, Bodhisattva never disparaging, and others. Nichiren explains that such an individual enjoys genuine peace and security because they have established an indomitable state of life through their efforts to continually fight against evil. He then offers a 3-point theoretical explanation for the 2 contradictions. So the 3-point theoretical explanations. 1, the votary of the Lotus Sutra's own karma. So Nichiren first explains that although the Lotus Sutra teaches that those who harass the sutra's votaries will incur immediate punishment, it only refers to cases where the votaries have not slandered the law in the past existences. In other words, if a person committed an act in the past that denied the fundamental Buddha nature in all people's life, they will meet with persecution as retribution of that offense. The purpose of Nichiren sharing this point is not to make people paranoid. He is illuminating the strict law of cause and effect that we experience in the present. What we experience in the present is due to the causes made in the past, and the causes we make now determines our future. It's quite difficult to understand everything about our karma, but what is most important is what we resolve to forge ahead from this moment on. By chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo and turning our struggles into our mission for Kosanufu in the present, we can create a victorious future regardless of the past. And the second point is Ichantikas who are destined to fall into hell. So Nichiren then explains why Ichantikas do not experience immediate punishment. So he uses the analogy found on page 118, second column, first paragraph. It says, they are like men who have already sentenced to execution and are awaiting their turn in prison. When they are in prison, regardless of what evil acts they may commit, they will receive no further punishment other than the death sentence already passed upon them. However, with regard to people who are eventually to be released, if they commit evil acts in prison, they will receive warnings. And then Sensei explains further on page 119, first column, first paragraph. Also, which such offenders may not receive immediate punishment, they are invariably rocked by a fundamental fear and anxiety arising from their inability to believe in their own Buddha nature. The anxiety and fear gnaw at them, steadily destroying their lives. So even where their retribution is not immediately visible, such people are clearly already suffering inconspicuous punishment. Therefore, Nichiren declares, people who despise the votaries of the Lotus Sutra may seem to be free from punishment at first, but eventually they're all doomed to fall. So what does this mean to us? To complain about and seek the suffering of those who have ill intentions or had made us suffer will not fundamentally change anything in our life and in society. Today, many people are living as victims in this way. So the third point is the three heavenly deities abandoned the land. So third, the Daishonin explains that the votary doesn't receive protection because heavenly deities have abandoned the country due to widespread slander of the correct teaching. This is also why the offenders do not suffer any immediate punishment. Simply said, the world is messed up. When there's so much corruption in the world, it's so easy for others to lower their own moral standards, and we can expect things to miraculously improve. When we can hear Nichiren declaring, then become a force of reforming society and bringing about that peace. So Nichiren's Buddhism forges that fighting spirit. So Sensei writes on page 121, first column, first paragraph, which is a great summary of the 3 points we discussed so far. In my mind, I can hear the Daishonin calling out vigorously to his followers. If you are not going to fight now, then when will you fight? My followers, stand up with courage. If you fight with the heart of the Lion King, you can expiate all past offenses and transform your karma. Let us lead to enlightenment even the Inchantikas who persecute us and help free humankind from fundamental darkness. Let us establish the correct teaching for the peace of the land and construct a world where we can live together happily and peacefully. So Nichiren Buddhism forges people's fighting spirit. This could be described as the essence of the opening of the eyes. So on the chapter 13, I will be the pillar of Japan. That's dispelling people's deep-seated doubts. So until now, Nichiren addressed the people's doubts intellectually, but those who were concerned only about their own protection couldn't understand why anyone could go out their way to face hardships. In the climax of the opening of the eyes, Nichiren declares his vow and reveals his inner state of life, starting with the phrase, "This I will state. in order to dispel the people's doubts. Why was it necessary for him to declare his vow? He understood that the doubts stemmed from a passive view of Buddhist faith, and in order for his disciples to break through, they needed to stand out with the same vow. So, what then is the vow? At the foundation of our life, every person already has something they're devoted to. For some, it is family, money, fame, or life focused on appearances. Most continue to live their lives without even questioning what this foundation is and what is devoted to and to what effects it is producing. Making a vow in Nichiren Buddhism is not becoming a martyr, but rather reforming the very foundation of our life and awakening to a grander purpose. It is devoting our lives to the proactive pursuit of the absolute happiness of oneself and others for the prosperity of society. Having such a vow will draw forth obstacles, but also accumulates a triumphant state of life. Let's identify key characteristics of this triumphant state of life. So the first one is non-regression is the essence of faith. So the first portion of this gosho expresses the spirit of non-regression, or never losing the spirit to keep fighting as long as we live. So this passage is found on page 124 of your book. And it says, "This I will state, let the gods forsake me, let all persecutions assail me. Still I will give my life for the sake of the law." Shariputra practiced the way of the Bodhisattva for 60 kalpas, but he abandoned the way because he could not endure the ordeal of the Brahman who begged for his eye. For those who received the seeds of Buddhahood in the remote past, and those who did so from the sons of the Buddha, great universal wisdom excellence, many abandoned the seeds and suffered in hell for the long periods of numberless major world system dust particle kalpas and major world system dust particle kalpas, respectively, because they followed evil companions. Whether tempted by good or threatened by evil, if one casts aside the Lotus Sutra, one destines oneself for hell. Here I will make a great vow. Though I might be offered the rulership of Japan if I would only abandon the Lotus Sutra, accept the teachings of the Meditation Sutra, and look forward to rebirth in the Pure Land, though I might be told that my father and mother will have their heads cut off if I do not recite the Nembutsu, whatever obstacles I might encounter, so long as persons of wisdom do not prove my teaching to be false, I will never yield. All other troubles are no more than dust before the wind. I will be the pillar of Japan. I will be the ice of Japan. I will be the great ship of Japan. I think I read too much, but anyways, sorry. So it says Nichiren shares the story of Shariputra, who was one of Shakyamuni's 10 disciples, foremost in wisdom. In a previous lifetime, a Brahman begged Shariputra for his eye. When Shariputra gave them the eye, the Brahman threw it on the ground and stomped on it. This ungrateful behavior of the Brahman caused Shariputra to believe such people are too difficult to be guided toward enlightenment and regressed into practicing solely for himself. It wasn't the Brahman's behavior, but rather Shariputra's loss to his own fundamental negativity and disbelief. So haven't you felt that way before? Maybe a friend or a family who maybe didn't seem to appreciate what you've done for them. Maybe we gave our heart to encourage a member, but our sincerity was once faced with arrogance. No matter what we accomplished in the past or how close we feel to our mentor, we must not allow our negativity consume and defeat us. If we cannot believe in others' potential, we don't truly believe in our own. Let's be determined and advance just one more step in our human revolution, in our efforts to support others. Doing so will lead a life free of regret. So living true to one's vow for a Kosanufu is the noblest path. So the next portion expresses the spirit of remaining true to one's vow. in page 124, where it says, whether tempted. Yeah, so since I already read it, yeah, I don't want to repeat myself, or because I read the whole passage. Sorry. So yeah, so we can see that the conviction he has in his mentor's words and his determination to respond to his mentor's call for Kosanufu no matter what. Sensen says on page 129, the third paragraph down, says, as long as our commitment to this vow remains steadfast, then absolutely no devilish functions or karma can defeat us. Those who abandoned their faith and turned against us in the past were invariably people who grew arrogant, become obsessed with fame and fortune, and lost sight of their commitment. All of them, however, have met with ignominious defeat. As Nichiren writes, it is the heart that is important. He teaches that having a non-regressing spirit and remaining true to one's vow are the essence of victory as a human being. So in face of devilish functions, let's powerfully chant in front of the Gohonson and seek our mentor in the Gosho and return to our prime point of what we're fighting for. Doing so will enable us to forge our own unique path and lead a life of victory. So finally, let's take a look at the last portion of Nichiren's Great Vow, where we see Nichiren's standalone spirit. And it's on page 124. And it says, I will be the pillar of Japan. I will be the eyes of Japan. I will be the great ship of Japan. This is my vow, and I will never forsake it. And then on Sensei writes on page 130, the first column, third paragraph. So he says, in any time and place, Kosanufu movement always begins with a standalone spirit. With that spirit, we can limitlessly activate the power of the mystic law. As President Toda's disciple, I stood up alone to blaze a path of worldwide Kosanufu where none had existed before. A standalone spirit is the first requirement for propagating the mystic law, which never changes throughout past, present, and future. An unwavering commitment to Kosanufu is the heart of a votary of the Lotus Sutra and the foundation of Nichiren Buddhism. So let's burn with youthful pride as pioneers of worldwide Kosanufu and engrave in the depths of our hearts the spirit of taking full responsibility for everything in our lives and in our organization. We must be the pillar, eyes, and ship of our family, friends, and communities. So returning to the importance of this vow for Kosanufu, without our vow, we can truly do our human revolution. It is like a tire spinning without gaining traction. So with that, I wanted to conclude the presentation. And if there were any points that struck you, since today we have a very intimate gathering, and also the people that are online, you can feel free to text me your questions, and then we can discuss them here, and Victoria will help me answer them. I think, yeah. How's everyone doing? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, here, close. Here. Here, so that people can see.
It wasn't a question, it was just a point.
No, but yes, we're in a small group, so yeah.
So I was just encouraged really by the part where Nishin says, I will be the pillar of Japan. I will be the eyes of Japan. I will be the great ship of Japan. He leaves like no room for like, oh, what will this happen or what could this happen? Because I see it in my life where like I'm chanting for a goal, and in my head I'm like, oh, this could happen or that could happen, and it's really encouraging to see like this is what's going to happen and this is what I'm chanting for, and I think that's like something that like I really aspire for in my life is being able to change the environment when I change, you know, because we all know it works. It's really hard to believe that, and there's some things that happen that's like this is never going to change. But it's really like I was really encouraged by that. Like whatever happens, and like we all have problems, but for the most of us, we're not getting executed on a beach, you know. So it's just so tough to, no matter that life state, to really be encouraged. And I think also living out our vow for Costa Rica is such a hard thing to define sometimes, because like what could it mean, you know? Is it like it could be it's different for everybody. But I'm really encouraged, like I said, by his determination that like he will win no matter what. So that was not a question.
Yes.
Actually, maybe I'll just do this so that people can see. Yeah, I was just thinking about it. I'm like, what? Sorry, guys. My brain is not working today.
I thought that on 128, when we're talking about under the heading of non-regression is the essence of faith, talking about turning against the Lotus Sutra leads inexorably into the abyss of darkness. Therefore, Nichiren writes, if one casts aside the Lotus Sutra, one destines oneself for hell. The Lotus Sutra recognizes the dignity of all people's lives. It is a teaching that enables us, 128. It is a teaching that enables us to bring forth our Dharma nature or inherent enlightenment. It is also the teaching of value creation. As the Lotus Sutra spreads, negative influences or evil companions appear without fail in order to stop its progress and topple its practitioners in the elevated state they have attained. Negative influences try to pull us into darkness and negativity and bring us under the influence of oppressive forces. Not only mustn't we be swayed by their workings, it is imperative that we wholeheartedly combat the evil of slander of the law, which is an enemy of the true teaching. It's like fighting spirit is a non-regressing spirit. If we do not fight energetically, we cannot prevail over the magnetic force of negative influences. Please remember this vital principle for victory in life. When you think about like negative forces being like magnetic, it's just like magnets are so strong, right? But it's just like you have to keep going. If you don't keep going, then you can't like fight it, right? If you just give in and find yourself being pulled, that pull will always be there. But it's just like, but as soon as you stop, as soon as you let that, you know, just like, oh, well, maybe I'll take a break for a second. It's just for a second. And that second, like you're already pulled into the abyss of darkness. But I always read the part where Nietzsche said, like, it's no more than dust before the wind, right? And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I never really thought about anything about that. But at the bottom of 128, in the second column, at the very, very bottom, says that Ed Shonin asserts that even if tempted with an offer to become the ruler of Japan, or threatened with the execution of his parents, he will never compromise his belief. Irrespective of whatever life-threatening hardships he may encounter, he says, he will sweep them away like dust before the wind. And I was like, hearing sweep away, it's not like just wind just blowing this dust everywhere. It's like he is actively like working on it, even though it seems like it's coming right back. Like he's still going to continue to do it no matter what. I think that imagery like really helped it to like make it more real for me, because I think it's just like, oh, no more than troubles before the wind. It's just like you're actively sweeping, even if the dust is blowing it back. Like you just have to continue going no matter what.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like the importance of really being committed to our vow. I think, last 3 weeks have been a nightmare for me, to be very, very honest. And because, this is Union of Leaders study, and I feel like so many times, I really, realized that I didn't even believe, like, what am I doing? What's the purpose? But again, like, if we don't go back to the prime point, then, I'm going to be drowned in that negativity that pulls me down. And just everything, just went wrong, work was a nightmare. The husband wasn't supporting at all. Um, and just, I was just like really, I feel like the spirit wasn't there. Like even, we had a wonderful unit leaders meeting, but personally, just wanted to, give up. But then I was realizing, of course, I didn't even have time to even read the victory manual that we received, but, really going back to understanding, the importance of, these big movements. And even today, we had our junior high school. I just wanted to share. It says, every campaign in the SGI is an expedient means to turn the wheels of our own human revolution and become happy. Gathering a great number of people is a remarkable task in and of itself, but our mentor shares the true purpose of such efforts. The meeting's true significance and grandeur lay in the personal victory and achievement each participant had realized in working towards it. Even the grandest event or ceremony can be seen as what the sutra describes as a phantom city, merely a mirage. Its real purpose is as a goal towards which each participant can work toward, which people can challenge themselves, triumph, and build a real city of light in the depths of their hearts. And when I was really reflecting, why is it that I'm, feeling so negative? I really realized that, at the end of the day, I just was doing it for the sake of doing it. But then I was really, reflecting on my own attitude, and again, I feel like because September is coming up so close, and this back to back, these movements, again, it's a reminder of what is my personal victory towards that, and I, in preparation towards last week, I really didn't have that. I was just like, okay, I need to do this no matter what, even though things are are a mess. But when I realized, like, no, I mean, I just gave up at that moment. I was complacent with my situation because I really thought, especially at work, that that I wasn't that yeah, they're a mess. They're not gonna change. But then when I started to really reflect on my attitude, I was like, yeah, they're not gonna change. I need to change. And then that little shift, and on Friday, I got a response saying like, no, well, we realize that you're not, you this responsibility is too much for you, so we're gonna have someone to help you, and you can learn from them. Which that was something that I really wanted. So I feel like that small victory, um, in my work was something that I needed to move forward. I know everyone had, on behalf of the wider VT, I know like towards preparing to, the movement have been such a challenge. Um, yeah, I don't know if I can share.
I know for me, I'm always balancing multiple responsibilities. So, yeah, I can relate to the negative magnetic force because it's like as soon as you stop, it's like easy to get dragged, away. And I know for me that like really spoke to me because, like I said, trying to manage multiple things. The minute I stop, it's like, oh well, you still have 50 things over here that you need to do, and I just always revert back to like the month that I did this challenge with my coworkers. We did a vegan challenge, but it was also a month that I sat. I was waiting for Victoria and at the Mac Center, and I sat and like planned my month. So I had put all my SGI activities in my calendar, and I just felt like that was, helpful for me because whenever I got another call about something, I had prioritized what my priorities were for that month. So it's like, yes, I can do this, but I can't do it Monday, maybe Tuesday, or I can't see you Saturday at 12 because I have to be here. Let's meet at 3. And I think for me, just like the planning things keeps me in balance and in rhythm. And I guess making efforts towards the 50K movement, even small, like today, trying to get here today for the shift. It worked out.
And then, yeah,
Yes.
both of your kids came.
Yes. So it's just for me making, the effort and just trying to not pause. As hard as it is, I think sometimes being busy, even though you feel overwhelmed going through it at the moment, the busyness helps keep you moving and just productive.
Anyone?
I think we only have which one?
This was right on time, though. This was right on time. I mean, but it's always that way, right? Like when we really chant or really struggling, it's exactly what we need to hear to be able to move forward. Even if we're not ready to hear it yet, by really chanting and like continuing to make efforts, eventually it kind of like pierces through that darkness, or that like whatever is pulling on us or gnawing at us, or eventually getting rhythm. It's like, oh, it's exactly what I need to do.
Or if it's not that, like it's really our environment. Or I mean, just Sunday we had our amazing meeting, right? And then on Monday, Tuesday, I can't remember, that shooting happening. And that for me was a wake up call because I really, I was like, okay. I mean, I'm sorry to be very real, but that's how I felt. I was like, what purpose? I really not feeling. I was really doubting my own practice also. But then, when you see society, I was like, no, that's why. Like immediately, I was like, come on, Monica, don't be stupid. You have to. This is what you're. All these activities and all this stuff is for this, so that we can bring hope to you, and that really just, I was just so blown away, and then especially, yesterday I was just like, oh my gosh, I like this 50K movement so significant this time, and how much, you know, um, yeah, it's the youth, the next generation that's gonna lead the way, and it's gonna happen, So I'm just like really hopeful for what's coming up in the next months. I don't know. Did anyone went to the march?
Some students from my school went, yeah, and a couple of other faculty members went. So we were easy this.
Yeah. I know everyone had prepared for junior high school meetings. Well, saying thank you,
Yeah.
Rob, and everyone in Richmond. And I don't know who else, maybe North Carolina also there. Thank you, everyone.